very much, everyone, for being here today, and now in English. Conservatives are still focused on our main mission, which is to make this once again a country where hard work pays off with an affordable home and good food on a safe street under our proud flag. That was the basic promise of Canada. We want stronger paychecks, secure streets, solid borders in a self-reliant Canada. But after 10 years of Liberals, we see the opposite. Despite their grand promises, what they've really done is doubled the cost of housing. They've doubled the food bank lineups. Just yesterday, we saw Food Bank's report, which is called Hunger Count, ominously named Hunger Count, showed that 2.2 million people are visiting food banks every single month. This is a massive increase over the numbers of roughly 1 million. And the report said that it took decades for Canada to have 1 million visits to a food bank in a single month, and only 5 years under the Liberals to get up to 2.2 million, just to show how disastrous the inflationary food policies of this government have become. That is one of the reasons why we're asking for the government to get rid of all hidden taxes on food in the forthcoming budget, the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and fertilizer, the food packaging tax, the fuel standard tax, and of course the inflation tax. Mark Carney, since taking office, has made these problems worse, said he would be judged by the price of groceries. Well, the verdict is in. Food prices are rising twice as fast as the general targeted inflation rate, rising 50% faster than in the United States of America. And more people are lined up at food banks than ever before. He said he'd spend less. His deficit spending is 100% more. He said he would negotiate a win with the Americans and have a deal by July 21st. Still no win, still no deal, still no elbows, and the jobs have gone missing. He has been weak and promise-breaking on the signature promise of the last election. And of course on crime. So far he has done nothing. He has passed no laws to reverse the Liberal crime wave that his party has unleashed over the last decade. And unfortunately, we see the results in intimate partner violence. 128,000 victims of intimate partner violence suffered in 2024. We have family violence is up 17% in the last 6 years. We see around 79% of intimate partner violence homicide victims are women. 26,000 children were victims of this violence. And this is all the direct result of C-75, Liberal bail, which allows repeat offenders to be released as soon as they are arrested, and of course C-5, which allows these abusers to do their sentences in the comfort of their living room, threatening their loved ones. This is effectively turning the home into a prison for the victims. Today, we're joined by Conservative members of Parliament and champions of public safety, Raquel Dancho, Rachel Thomas, Melissa Landsman, Stephanie Kuzy, and of course, Frank Caputo, Shadow Minister of Public Safety, who has put forward an important bill to save lives by stopping intimate partner violence. Most important of all, we have Debbie Henderson, a family spokesperson for Bailey McCourt, and Trish McCourt, Bailey's stepmother. Bailey's story is really one of tragic heartbreak. A brilliant, beautiful, and intelligent young woman in the prime of her life, a mother, murdered by her estranged ex-husband, James Plover, a man who was released literally hours earlier despite a conviction for uttering threats and carrying out a violent physical assault. He had strangled another person in an unprovoked attack, yet he was released under Liberal laws, and he murdered this beautiful young woman. This could have been prevented. If Mr. Plover had been in jail where he belonged, she would still be alive today. And there are countless who have lost their lives because Liberal laws have turned their perpetrators loose on our streets. And that is why Frank Caputo has introduced a bill that would take a number of steps to protect against intimate partner violence. It would ensure that anyone who's convicted of murder in an intimate partner setting would be automatically given first-degree murder sentencing. It would create specific sentences including assaulting an intimate partner and criminal harassment of an intimate partner. It would force those convicted of intimate partner offense to, within the preceding 5 years, to be released only by a judge. It would empower courts to detain persons accused of intimate partner violence at any time for a risk assessment reviewed by a judge, and would modernize detention evidence. These are important common steps that will protect all victims of domestic violence, especially women, who make up over two-thirds, over.
Thank you very much, Wickeden. That's amazing. Appreciate it a great deal. Welcome. Good day. Canadian federal politics, right here.
3/4 of victims in these cases. So I want to thank Frank and all of our Conservative MPs. We want to work with any party to get this bill passed, protect people. We encourage every party to join with us. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. Let's do the right thing. Now let me turn the floor over to Frank Caputo to further describe his bill. There you are.
Thank you very much, Pierre. It's an honor to be here, although I wish the circumstances were different. I'm honored to be joined here by Debbie and by Trish, two of Bailey McCourt's family members. They want change. Canada wants change. I want change. As a former Crown prosecutor, as a former federal parole officer, I have seen the pernicious impact of intimate partner violence. This is a crime that spans every socioeconomic group. It is vastly underreported and disproportionately impacts women, especially vulnerable women. It is against that backdrop that I drafted Bill C-225, the most comprehensive response to intimate partner violence in Canadian history. This bill is completely non-partisan. I invite anybody who reads it to look at the provisions. It is so important that we call it what it is. When you assault an intimate partner, it's not just assault. It's assaulting somebody oftentimes who is in an emotional relationship, a physical relationship, a relationship of financial dependence. That's what distinguishes it from simple assault. And that's why we should be calling it criminal harassment of an intimate partner, aggravated assault of an intimate partner, just like we do with assaulting a peace officer. The time for change is now. This bill would also make it first-degree murder for anybody who murders their intimates. Where it would ordinarily be second-degree murder, we believe we need to denounce and deter, according to the fact that so many intimate partners are homicide victims. The vast majority, many victims of homicide in Canada are actually intimate partners, and it's time that we reflect that in our laws. This bill would enable a risk assessment to occur at any time. Most importantly, this bill is supported by our Conservative caucus. It's supported by Debbie and Trish. It's supported by Carrie Wiebe. I talked to her this morning. She was the survivor of the attack on Bailey McCourt. She's recovering at home, and we wish her all the best. Myself, Trish, and Debbie had a phone call with Premier David Eby yesterday. He supports this bill. When you have an NDP Premier supporting a Conservative private member's bill, we know we're on the right track. I urge the government to pass this bill as quickly as possible. The government has the ability to get this bill through the House of Commons and to the Senate in a matter of weeks, if not days. We believe that the government should be dealing with this right away. And if you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. But perhaps they will listen to the voice of Debbie, who's going to speak on behalf of the McCourt family. Thank you.
We're here today on behalf of Bailey, and not just on behalf of Bailey, but on behalf of all the victims that have died by intimate partner violence. We're tired of seeing it in the news. We have been counting every day since Bailey was murdered and watching and seeing the number of women murdered, and we are demanding change. There's no need to wait. This is an epidemic, and we fully support Bill C-225, Bailey's Law. We're so grateful to Mr. Caputo for honoring Bailey's name, and we're going to continue to push for change. And we are hopeful that the community, write your MPs, ask your MPs to support this bill. It needs to be passed quickly. There's no need to wait. The next person could be you, or it could be one of your family members, and we don't want to see any other family member go through the horror that our family has gone through. Thank you.
Mr. Poilievre, can we ask you on a different topic, and I'm sorry to be so bright in the mood, but je m'excuse, je ne sais pas pourquoi je parle en anglais. Oui, vas-y donc.
Monsieur Poilievre. Il y a d'autres gouvernements, vous parlez de Monsieur Eby notamment.
To looking at this, I am open to any common sense solution that will help intimate partners be victimized less. Let's talk about it. There is nothing wrong with discussion, just as we're having right now. So let's see where that goes. Thank you.
Donc, on est ouvert aux amendements, y compris la possibilité d'un registre. Frank veut travailler avec tous les partis. S'il y a des suggestions qui va
I think Canadians want this to happen quickly. There's no reason why this bill can't get to the Senate very quickly.
Questions orales, oral
Get
questions.
into it now.
Oh, hello.
Screw that French. No translators, cut off. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
WTF.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
The one we call Canadians.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have issues in Canada, right? Unless you're completely head in the sand, be aware of this.
Oh, yeah. And now...
All right, gang. Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Smash the subscribe, hit the like. Let's get this going. We have a lot of stuff to show. We open up with Jamil Giovanni, one of our favorites. He's got a very rousing speech. Then we're going to hit the different committee meetings. Then we'll flip over just in time for question period when it starts. Like, this is the most interesting way to watch Canadian federal politics. Smash the like, hit subscribe. That's it. And we're into this. Jamil Giovanni, let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. I rise in the House today as a survivor of stage 4 cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in particular. And I bring that up because it greatly shapes my perspective on the legislation we're discussing today. When I was sick, and I was going through chemotherapy and radiation treatment, it was taxing on me as a person, right? Emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. But the hardest part of it was actually seeing my mother endure it all. My mom is a strong woman and a woman of faith, but for any parent seeing your child go through a serious illness, it hits you very hard. And I remember vividly the fear and the anxiety in my mother's eyes. I remember her face when I was going in for a lumbar puncture or a PET scan, blood work, and just seeing the impact me being in that position had on her. It was one of the haunting moments of the whole ordeal for me. And what my family went through for those years was just a fraction of the pain and the anguish that a family goes through when they lose a child. What my family went through was just a fraction of the pain and the anguish that parents go through when they lose a young child in particular. I am very happy to stand here today and express my complete support for Bill C-222 and for Evan's Law. I think that the government needs to do as much as it possibly can to support families, and in particular to support grieving families through difficult times. And this legislation represents an important move in that direction. I want to acknowledge the hard work that was done to get this legislation here, and start off by acknowledging the Member of Parliament for Airdrie Cochrane, who's been an advocate on this issue for years. I want to acknowledge the Member of Parliament for Burnaby North Seymour for bringing this particular bill to the House, and I understand that he worked closely with the member from Burlington on this. So I just salute them all and everybody else who's gotten this legislation to this point. To me, this is about the government fulfilling its promises that it makes to families, and that if the government promises to provide parental leave benefits to a family, it does so regardless of the circumstances changing, especially tragic circumstances, which I think most people would regard as deserving more support, not less support. And I hope that the Liberal government hears my heart on this, because I say this with zero criticism or opposition to this bill. But I would like to propose a change to this bill, a change that would expand the protection of parental leave benefits to more grieving families. You see, Bill C-222 is specific to families grieving for the loss of a child, and that is an incredibly important part of these changes to the Employment Insurance Act and the Canada Labour Code. But there are also families grieving in very similar situations where a parent has passed away, and as a result is dealing with many of the same challenges that this current version of Bill 222 seeks to remedy. And since we're having a conversation about making changes to the Employment Insurance Act and the Canada Labour Code, I think this opens up a window for us to extend consideration, generosity, and empathy to grieving families in other situations as well. I raise this, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of some of my constituents in Bowmanville, Oshawa North, many of whom signed a petition on this very issue recently, a petition that was inspired by the difficult circumstances of a family that I represent. For the sake of their privacy, I won't say their names, but they brought their situation to my attention, and I do believe with an appropriate amendment, this bill could remedy the circumstances that they have found themselves in. And I want to share what those circumstances are. It was brought to my attention by the surviving husband of a woman who tragically passed away while on parental leave with their first daughter. The surviving husband contacted Service Canada to inform them of his wife passing away, and the remaining months of parental leave benefits were then promptly cut off from their family. Shortly after, the surviving husband received a bill from the CRA requiring him to repay the benefits he received between the time of his wife's passing and the date where Service Canada was notified. I don't believe anyone in this House wants families facing unimaginable loss to go through that. I don't believe anyone in this House wants the CRA to be sending a bill to a grieving husband or wife. And I don't believe anyone in this House wants Service Canada to be cutting off benefits that were promised to a family at a time where they are not only facing an unimaginable loss, but also dealing with the economic uncertainty and instability that comes with a parent passing away. So my hope is that in hearing this story, we might be able to work together on expanding this very empathetic and important piece of legislation to include families in these circumstances. And at the request of my constituent, I'd like to read a statement from him to help people get a better sense of how all of this impacted him and his family. He wrote to me and said, "My daughter lost her mom before her first birthday, and that is a heavy weight for us to carry as a family for a lifetime. Maintaining benefit payments and extending some grace to those who find themselves in such an unfortunate position might make all the difference in the world to someone who is already running on empty, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially." Mr. Speaker, the spirit of Evans Law is to protect and relieve grieving parents from an additional burden. And I think it would be appropriate to provide the same consideration in cases of death of a parent who is receiving parental leave benefits. Continuing these payments to the surviving spouse for the remainder of the approved benefit period would alleviate a significant burden on the small percentage of families who face these particular tragic circumstances. So it is my belief that as I stand here in full support of Bill C-222, and certainly look forward to enthusiastically voting in favor of it in this chamber, that by raising these important concerns about the Employment Insurance Act and the Canada Labour Code, we actually have an opportunity to extend this consideration to more grieving families. I want to reiterate, Mr. Speaker, that I hope the Liberal government hears my heart on this. I say none of this as a criticism, and in fact, I look forward to the possibility of collaborating with them on an amendment that would expand this consideration to more people. And I am happy to have shared the story of some of my constituents who've been impacted by the policy status quo. I repeat again that I really do believe that the core of this is asking governments to live up to the promises that they make to families. And I think that we have to see that when the government promises EI payments, when the government promises parental leave benefits to a family, that that promise should be seen through from the beginning to the end for the appropriate period of time. And that that money should never be clawed back. There should be no expectation that grieving families have to return money paid out in that period of time. And most importantly, that families know they can count on that money that they have planned for, especially in a tragic situation where there's been a loss. So I do hope that we can get this amendment the consideration it deserves, and I do look forward to Bill C-222 supporting grieving families across our country. Thank you.
Well done. Resuming debate. Please do that.
Minutes with Ms. Roberts for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I would like to thank you for coming today, and I have a few questions. And one of the things that really concerns me is I recently had to assist seniors who had been living in their car over the winter. And the reason for that is that they just couldn't afford the cost of living and therefore couldn't afford the rent or their food. So for seniors on fixed income, every cost increase from groceries to rent to medical supplies erodes their purchasing power. And as we know, 58,255 widowed women are over 65 living in poverty. Single seniors, 39% of Canadians over 65 are single, yet single seniors do not benefit from income splitting, so we know that that's an issue. In 2021, census shows that 305,000 seniors are living below poverty, with over 173,000 women affected. 71% of single seniors are living alone, earning under $50,000. And so how are we supposed to respond to seniors that are listening today that are choosing between paying the rent or buying medicine or buying food, when they're barely making their rent payments?
Thank you for the question. And, you know, while I mentioned certainly that seniors are at half the rate of the national average of working Canadians in terms of being below the poverty line, we know there is still more work to do, as you mentioned, with single seniors. That's why we're focused on building an economy that brings down the costs for Canadians, and this very much includes seniors and helping them to get ahead. And you mentioned food prices and the overall cost of living. We know this is putting pressure on Canadians and particularly those with fixed incomes. To support seniors, we've made significant investments, including increasing the maximum GIS for single seniors, which you were talking about, as well as increasing the OAS pension for seniors 75 and older. OAS benefits, as I mentioned, are also increased quarterly to help keep up with the rising cost of living. These investments are really crucial to reducing the poverty rate. And we know that it's working because we can see that the poverty rate for seniors is half of the national average. We know there's still more to do, certainly, and that's why we're focused on making historic investments in key initiatives that affect affordability. We know housing is a key affordability issue, and so this really feeds into the Canada Housing Plan. The National Housing Strategy also has seniors at a core consideration with respect to the development of that strategy.
So I'm sorry to interrupt,
No, it's okay.
Minister. I guess what's upsetting is one of my constituents who lost her husband, she's 74 years old, she only worked for a few years. She raised her 4 children and is living on minimal income. She has a small little townhouse, 1,200 square feet, and as we all know, when you move a senior out of the environment that they're accustomed to, they deteriorate. So she decided she was going to rent one of the rooms to a student to help offset the cost. She applied for a job and to basically allow her to stay in her home. She also applied to get a reduction on her property tax, which we all know is really a blanket situation because when she sells the house, that money will have to be paid back at some point. But in the interim, it helps her to stay in the home that she wants to retire in. Unfortunately, she lost her job. And then unfortunately, because she earned that little bit extra, they clawed back her OAS. Then the student lost his job. So therefore, she felt bad throwing him out because he couldn't pay his rent. How do I explain to this woman that this government is doing everything they can to assist her when she's being penalized for doing something that will help her stay in her home?
Yeah, a lot of seniors are still able to work and take on additional jobs. So it sounds like this particular senior is, really sophisticated and doing, what she can. She's leveraging her assets. I hear about this in my constituency as well, the municipal property taxes. Folks bought their home for, $60,000 and paid it off back in the 90s, and now it's worth, $1 million, and they're paying property taxes on that. We know that these, costs contribute, and that's why this really requires a multi-government, multi-level government approach as well.
How do I? Okay, let me give you another statistic, which is really profound. The total potential of GDP impact on the closing on women's health gap is $37 billion per year. So I have a senior who's working to try and offset some of the costs. She gets clawed back. She can't afford her medication, which is going to cause health issues, which is going to put a bill on our health system. It's going to burden our health system because now she's going to have to go to the hospital or go to the doctor when she's got to choose. Do I buy my medicine? Do I pay my rent? Do I pay my utility bills, or do I eat? I know she's listening today.
Yeah.
And I know she's going to want an answer from us as to how we're going to justify You claw back her GIS because she worked and made $3,000, so she gets clawed back from her GIS. She has a student that lost his. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, you can respond to that in a follow-up question if you choose.
Sorry.
Ms. Falk for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Secretary, for being here. Seniors are feeling the full weight of the cost of living crisis, and this has been created under your Liberal government. Canadian food inflation is nearly double the Bank of Canada's target, and food prices have been rising 48% faster here in Canada than in the United States. After a decade of Liberal inflationary deficits, it's not just food, it's the cost of housing, heating, and basic necessities that have gone up. The situation is particularly dire for those living on fixed incomes who don't have the flexibility to absorb higher costs. So as the Secretary of State for Seniors, are you actively advocating within Cabinet for an end to the government's inflationary deficits that are driving up costs and making life harder on seniors that are on fixed incomes?
So, seniors, yes, are on fixed incomes. I think it's important to remember that Canada has one of the world's best pension regimes. And this pension...
Right, but my question was about, are you advocating for them within Cabinet? That was my question.
I'm sorry, you had several questions embedded in one question.
I had one question. I had some statements and then I had one question. Is if you're advocating for seniors within Cabinet?
Absolutely, I'm advocating for seniors within Cabinet. That's my primary mandate. I spoke to that with respect to my answer from one of the members of the Liberal caucus.
But with respect to that, your government created a two-tier retirement age by giving the 10% OAS boost to only those seniors that were over 75. So that actually left seniors 65 to 74 out and behind from that increase. And it is also your Liberal government that's created uncertainty and financial hardship for seniors. So the Bloom Finance report found that 76% of seniors say rising costs are eroding their retirement savings. And Stats Canada reports that nearly half of working seniors aged 65 to 74 say they're still working out of financial necessity. So they're working because they have to work, because everything is too expensive. So this is the reality facing seniors under your government. So how do you justify a high tax and high spend agenda that fuels inflation while seniors are forced to choose between heating, eating, and essential medications that they need?
Sorry, what was your question?
How do you justify a high tax and high spend agenda that is fueling inflation while seniors are forced to choose between eating, heating, and medication that is a necessity for them? Because it was your government that created the two tiers of seniors.
So you're asking about the difference between the
seniors
75 and up?
cannot get by. They have saved.
I'm just trying to understand your question.
Well, I'm sorry that you don't understand it. I don't know how much more plain. I'm a big advocate for plain language, and this is in pretty plain language.
And your initial question was about taxation and our budget plan.
My first question was about if you advocate for seniors in Cabinet. That was my first question.
And I answered that question. I'm trying to get clarity.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we can allow the Secretary of State to complete her sentence before we interject. I mean, I understand. I know time is limited.
I'm lenient. It's the member's time to question, so I'll resume with the member, but please respect one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I do take issue with that. I am respectful. I am a respectful member of this committee. I'm sorry that I guess my questions just seem to be difficult. My question is on the cost of living. The cost of living is increasing. How are these seniors that are on fixed income that your government has then has then created more pressure by creating two tiers of seniors, some that get a boost and others that don't, basically saying you're having a harder time, then you're having a harder time, so because you fall in this category, you get more money, when in reality, the cost of living for them, especially them, because they're on fixed incomes, they don't have more income coming in, or they have to go back to work. in order to not live on the streets, in order to pay for medication, in order to be able to put food on the table. And we had heard from my colleague, Ms. Roberts, how there are seniors taking in students, for example, so that they can have a place to live. So why do you support, and why does your government support a high tax and high spend agenda?
With respect to seniors, it is really important that we invest in seniors. So our government is investing in old age security. We're investing in those who are 75 and older, as I mentioned, who have
the two-tier
higher
system
needs,
that your government created.
who have higher needs, and those higher needs need to be addressed. And so by ensuring that there's additional funds for those seniors, we're helping to address poverty. And this means
that they're still living in poverty and they're being forced back to work. Thanks, Secretary.
That means that seniors...
Ms. Falk, we've gone beyond. Mr. Joseph.
Start with the 6-minute round with Mrs. Jansen. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Bartlett. Everyone in the room knows the writing was on the wall. Back in 2016, this very committee told the Liberal government what exactly needed to be done for Canada Post. Modernize delivery, find new revenue streams, adapt before it's too late. But 8 years later, those changes never happened. Do you believe those recommendations should have been enacted sooner?
Yes. NAMU work with the government or with the Postal Task Force. It supported Canada Post's original 5-year plan or 5-point plan in 2013, and we supported those changes and believe they should have been enacted at that time.
So the decline in letter mail wasn't a surprise. Canadians were paying bills online. Businesses were moving to digital long before 2016. Did your association warn government that those trends would accelerate?
Yes.
And when did you do that? When you did that, what kind of response did you get?
They listened. Certainly, the Postal Task Force took our recommendations and our thoughts seriously, and certainly produced that in the report. The parliamentary committee at the time that was part of the postal review dismissed the numbers, as I recall, and didn't think change was necessary.
Sorry, could you say that again? They dismissed the numbers? They didn't think that they were...
Yeah, the numbers have been projections which have been put forward by Deloitte and Canada Post are pretty close to where Canada Post is today. Losses around $1 billion or so. And the parliamentary committee, Canada Post was still profitable at that time, and the parliamentary committee had basically concluded that they didn't believe the numbers and that they didn't need it to be acted on immediately.
So one of the big ideas from 2016 was to diversify revenue, expand parcels, partner with private delivery networks, even explore new financial services. And instead, we got inaction. So how much opportunity was lost because the government failed to act when there was still time?
I don't think I can answer that. It would be a significant number. It's safe to say.
Thank you very much again, Wickeden. Sorry to interrupt everybody, but Wickeden's been extremely generous. Thank you.
Canada Post would not be in the position it is in today if there had been action at that time.
Okay, so for your members, the major mail users, this isn't just theory, it's day-to-day operations. And I am also hearing from my small and medium-sized businesses in my riding that Canada Post mail delivery is essential to them with all the things you mentioned in your thing. So how has this delay hurt your members?
I think some of the critical ways it's hurt members has certainly been in pricing. Canada Post has taken a little bit of an uneven approach to pricing, where it's for letter mail, it has done consistent increases for commercial mail, but did not do increases for stamps. And as a result, for instance, there used to be a 10-cent incentive to use meters, and now that's dropped down to 1 cent. Because Canada Post has not been able to raise the ceiling with stamps, it's had to take money from the industry through price increases.
So the Liberals have been at the helm this whole time. So do you think the absence of a clear modernization plan from this government is a big reason we're now seeing Canada Post in financial distress?
There was a plan. It just needed to be acted upon.
So if you turn back the clock, which two or three reforms would you have seen to be the first priorities that Canada Post should have done to secure its future, that the government should have done for Canada Post to secure its future?
Conversion to community mailboxes and ending the rural moratorium.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you today is this wasn't inevitable. The writing was on the wall, but nobody picked up a pen to fix it. Do you think it's too late for Canada Post since the Liberals waited so long?
No, I don't think it's too late for Canada Post. However, we need to move. We need to move quickly, and we need to move carefully. Canada Post can't, for instance, deal with its deficits by large price increases. Government needs to fund it until these changes kick into place.
And I wonder, do I have a little bit more time left?
45 seconds.
45 seconds. So I wonder if you could describe for me a little bit more the chaos that has, that our small and medium-sized businesses and your members have actually had to undergo because of this chaos and this mess.
Well, let me go back to last year's labor disruption. There is a mail service provider who provides a great service to its customers and is very supportive of its employees. And during the strike last year, its business virtually shut down. And what they did is they maintained their employees, with great loss to the business in terms, and there was really very little work for them to do. It was very disruptive. It hurt them financially, and the ongoing.
Sorry, I have to interrupt because it is past our time. We're going to go to Mr. Gasparo. Colleagues, I'm afraid I'm hearing from our interpreters that our connection to Mr. Bartlett is dropping again. We only have about 25 minutes left, so I'm going to suggest don't direct any questions to Mr. Bartlett for the moment. We'll try and have IT connect with them to fix this connection. Mr. Gasparo, go ahead. Great. And Mr. Bartlett, our IT people will contact you separately by phone to try and get you worked out. Go ahead, Mr. Gasparo.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Deegan, nice to see you again. I know, obviously from my past experience serving on the board of Post Media, that Canada Post work stoppages have made it very difficult for some newspapers, and you touched on it in your opening remarks. I can tell you this had an impact on the circulation of several ethnic newspapers in my riding of Eglinton Lawrence, such as the Corriere Canadese, which is a large Italian newspaper daily, located also in Eglinton Lawrence. And this impacts obviously community and ethnic newspapers, and they keep Canadians informed. Can you just drill down a little bit in terms of how the recent strikes and work stoppages have affected local news?
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. And the newspaper that you're referring to, the Corriere Canadese, which is owned by a former parliamentarian, Joe Volpe, is a great example. These newspapers are vital to the communities they serve. I believe that's actually the largest Italian language newspaper in North America. And it's had a major impact. We had, we got basically very little notice in terms of the strike, and all of a sudden you cannot get your newspaper out. So it's played a major role, and it's a real hardship, and it's the uncertainty that makes it very difficult. Do you decide to print or not? You're not sure if the stoppage is going to end. And perhaps I could turn it to Murray Elliott, who's a community publisher in Olds, Alberta, to just explain for him what this actually meant and for his colleagues in Alberta.
All right, we're skipping this one. We're going to check out a little Hitty Fry with, this one gets interesting right away.
It's a 6-minute round. The 6-minute includes the question and answer. And I will do the same. I'll give you a 1 minute and a 30-second.
She's 500 years old. Like, give me a break.
Prompt. So we begin with the Conservatives. Mr. Major, for 6 minutes, please.
This is pretty good.
Chair, and thank you for the witnesses who are coming out here today. Dr. Naik, did the Federal Immigration Department consult with the Medical Council of Canada on this year's Federal Immigration Levels Plan? Did the Federal Immigration Department ask for any data on the current capacity of Canada's health care system on this year's Immigration Levels Plan?
No, they did not.
Well. My next questions are for the Society for Canadians Studying Abroad, Medicine Abroad. So is the Federal Immigration Department approving permits that allow foreign doctors to train in Canada through the visa trainee program?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
Is the Federal Immigration Department approving permits that allow foreign doctors to train in Canada through the visa trainee program?
Yes, without the LMIA process. So no analysis is the impact on Canadians. They are allowing it despite our objections, despite our application. They are ignoring our application to insist on finding out what the impact on Canadians is.
Once these visa trainees complete their medical training in Canada, do they stay to practice here, or are they required to return to their home countries to practice?
Under their contracts with their sponsor, they're required to return to their home country. And most of them do. Some of them ignore their contract and stay.
Why is the federal government approving work permits for foreign doctors to train in Canada under the visa trainee program, only to send them home afterward, while thousands of qualified Canadians studying medicine abroad can't secure a training spot here?
Do you want to take that?
You both can answer. So.
Yeah, that's a darn good question. Very good question, why they're doing that. We know that this came about by the request of the faculties of medicine of Ontario, supported by the others. What's happening is that the faculties earn $100,000 of as an application. That's what they charge each year of these foreign physicians, so it's a very good source of income. Millions of dollars are earned every year by the faculty. They can use that money at their discretion, and so what they're doing is using, taxpayers' resources and our trained doctors to train these foreigners so that they can then have a lot of extra money for the purposes that they want, whether it's research or whatever. I'm not against them making money. What I'm against, what we're struggling with, is that Canadians are literally dying. They're not able to get back to work. They're losing their homes because they can't get their problems. And as a result of that, that should be far more important than the faculty being able to make a little bit extra money, so that literally thousands, as Varen said, there were 1,000 this year of qualified people ready to go to work, and as resident physicians, and that was not able. A few years ago, the Ministry of Defense wanted to fund 50 residents, and the faculties said no, and they gave them 5. They said, we have the capacity to do 5. The next year they did 8.
Nicely to my next question here. Thank you for that explanation. Are foreign-funded visa trainees using medical training capacity that could otherwise be available for Canadians who study medicine abroad?
Absolutely, okay. And the numbers are great.
Dr. Monkley, did you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, the teaching hospitals rely on residents. They're a source of
good labor, and they provide a lot of the care in hospitals. I certainly believe there's capacity to train more.
How many Canadians are currently studying medicine abroad and are unable to obtain residency position in Canada after graduation?
There are 3,500 that are studying abroad. About 800 graduate every year. This last year, there were 181 off the top of my head that applied, but that actually is in response to more residency positions. In 2022, there were only 119 Canadians out of 800 that applied after graduation because of the barriers. The chances are so slim. It's in Australia, you're almost guaranteed.
Which country is benefiting the most from the visa trainee program?
United States of America. Sorry, which countries from the visa trainees?
Visa trainees, yes, sorry. I've switched back to visa trainees.
Oh, sorry.
Which country
Saudi
is benefiting?
Arabia, there's currently 1,117 Saudi Arabians training in Canada at this time.
Okay. Before the federal government brings in more foreign doctors through immigration, should it first make sure that qualified Canadians who study medicine abroad can return home here to practice?
9 seconds?
Yes.
To answer. Liberals.
All right, they're just about out of time. So I've got one piece that we're going to show before question period. We'll cross right over. We've got that lined up. So no problem there. They're just talking BS right now on the House of Commons floor, doing their statements and whatever. But right now we have this piece. Like, we're going back to Ann Roberts and Rosemary Falk versus Secretary McLean. That feral cat you just saw, she just needs a brush. Although she has braces. Weird.
Thank you, Chair. Here's my concern. So we have a single senior that earns $50,000. We have a couple that earns $50,000. That single senior pays, between federal and Ontario taxes, almost $6,000 in taxes, $57.97 to be exact. The couple pays $600. So we have a single senior that is penalized because she's single and therefore paying more in taxes. And what really upsets me about this is that seniors are going to the food bank to help so that they can bring food home so that they don't feel guilty. Do we really want a society where our seniors who have built this country, raised us, have to use the food bank?
I mean, absolutely not. We don't want a society where anyone feels and experiences a situation where they need to access the food bank in order to be able to make ends meet. And that's why it's important to protect the services and investments that we're making into seniors.
So why excuse me, sorry, Secretary, but the taxes are eroding the opportunity for seniors to live within their means. We're asking them to budget, but how can they budget when we continue to increase taxes? I mean, I've got a simple example here where if they're paying out that much in taxes and having to go to a food bank and get food, how do I justify that and say, how do we change that? How do we change that system for someone that is living below the poverty line, that has to go to the food bank because she feels guilty, and if she doesn't do that, she doesn't have rent, and if she doesn't have enough money to pay her rent at the end of the month, she'll be kicked out, so she's got to choose, what do I do? Like, we're putting seniors in an awkward position, and we're doing nothing about it. Like, taxes are continuing to increase, and they're impacting our seniors.
So, obviously, the federal government can't do anything about the provincial taxation in Ontario. That's within the purview of that province. And with respect to what we have control over and what we can do, we are increasing the maximum GIS for single seniors, for example.
But she doesn't get it because she's chosen to get a job, so she doesn't qualify for it because you claw her back. And when we talk about taxes, the federal taxes on a single senior earning $50,000 is almost $3,700. So how do it doesn't make sense to me that we're asking her to live within her budget. You're giving her GIS, great, but that's still not enough when she's paying $2,800 a month rent. It doesn't justify it. I'm sorry.
For the seniors who are working, there's an earnings exemption, and that provides a full exemption up to $5,000 of annual employment or self-employment earnings, as well as a 50% exemption on the next $10,000 of earnings. So this is a total exemption of $10,000 on the first and $15,000 of earnings.
Can I ask another question?
Helps.
I have limited time, so I do apologize for interrupting you. But can I ask you, how many full-time FTEs are in the department?
I mean, you can ask all the questions you want. If you want answers to them, you'll have to give me an opportunity to answer them. In terms of the FTEs, just 2024, which year? For 2020, like current?
This is your department. I would assume that you would know how many FTEs you have.
Oh, so you're asking for 2022 to 2023, how many FTEs we had? In that year, we had a total of 36,959 in 2022, 2023.
Okay, so with that amount of FTEs.
But that's not how many FTEs we have today.
Okay, so what is it today then?
Yeah, so you want to know 2024, 2025. It's forecasted to be 35,941 because we haven't closed the year out, but 2023, 2024, it was 36,615.
So we have over 100,000 seniors, 173,000 seniors, which are women, living below the poverty line. How do you justify the FTEs to service our seniors that aren't even making ends meet?
This is for the totality of ESDC. So this includes labor, it includes employment insurance, includes the full scope of ESDC, which is one of the largest, if not the largest, department with the most FTEs in government.
Well, I would say
it's over 5 minutes. We will now go to Ms. Fancy for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Morrissey is 807 years old. Not that it should matter, but it matters.
Over 5 minutes.
It helps bolster them. They voted down dental care, and they've also voted down pharmacare. As one of the final speakers today, I would love for you to help us talk about the future and what you see that we can do to look towards the future within this new government. Where do you see then, your question is, where do you see the greatest opportunities for progress?
Thank you very much for your question. And you raised several really good points, and I think it also gives me the opportunity to speak to something that your Conservative colleagues didn't give me the opportunity to address, but I think it's really important. And this is just a quick discussion about old age security and where the thresholds are with respect to what they refer to as clawbacks. And it's important to note that the minimum income threshold for a senior before they start receiving any kind of, quote, clawback is $90,997 in 2024. So a senior won't start to experience a, quote, clawback of old age security until they are at that minimum income threshold. And there is, as well as you mentioned, the earnings exemption. So this does allow seniors who are able to continue working, of which we know many choose to do so. And this is really speaks to the health outcomes of this country and how much we've invested both provincially and federally with respect to ensuring longevity and quality of life for seniors in the country. In terms of forward-looking and where things are going, I think it cannot be understated the importance of the times that we're living in and the global context. To that end, one of the areas that I've been focusing on, and in the short term, we're going to be doing a lot of work on, but we also know that this is sort of like a whack-a-mole thing, so it will require ongoing government commitment and attention and intention, is with respect to financial security around combating scams, frauds, and financial crime. We know that seniors are disproportionately targeted on this. That's why I was proud to stand up with Minister Champagne and Secretary of State Long. One of the first conversations I had with Secretary of State Long was around the need to combat these scams. We know that tens of millions of dollars every year leave the country, and they go to crime. And that is because seniors have been targeted and they're becoming more sophisticated using AI and the like. So setting up a dedicated financial agency that is targeted with specialists and subject matter experts, staffing it to focus on scams and crime is going to be really important, but not only from a financial perspective. We've seen in the news even just today that a senior couple lost their life savings. This is an anti-poverty initiative ensuring that seniors are protected. It's an anti-poverty initiative to ensure that they're not going to be scammed out of their life savings, because we know that our pension system is built as a 3-pillar model. It's old age security, CPP, and private retirement savings. And to see individuals lose their entire private retirement savings means that there will not only are those seniors at risk of poverty, but they are going to be more reliant on government services. So this needs to be a focus of this government, of our future work, and I know that it will be of mine.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Ms. Fancy. We will now have 3 questions.
Falk for 2 minutes, government 2 minutes, and the block for 1 minute. Madame Falk, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've been hearing you say a lot, Secretary, about dignity of seniors and ensuring that seniors have dignity. And I think that dignity is making sure that seniors can live within their means and make choices for themselves. If you talk to many seniors, many of them want to age out in their own home. They want to stay in their own communities. And I do note that in your opening remarks, you said it's important that seniors accessing services that they need where they are. So in saying this, why is your government supporting the shutting down of rural post offices?
In terms of what is happening with Canada Post and the plans with respect to the future of Canada Post, I really can't speak for my colleague. What I can say,
this contradicts keeping seniors in their communities and in their homes. When you go into rural areas, a lot of times the post office is where a lot of seniors will get their socialization for the day. They'll go out, get their mail. It's a thing that they do. So I guess I'm seeing a contradiction in what you're saying in your opening remarks of seniors accessing services where they are. And I'm just using the example of rural post offices.
Yeah, so if I was able to finish my answer, what I do know is that with respect to the rural post offices, there is a priority to ensure that rural postal services remain intact. I'm not aware of any
But your
plans
government's
that are in
in
place
agreement
with respect
with
to closing
closing
down
those
rural
post
post
offices.
offices.
So
Sorry, the
there's a
interpreters
contradiction.
can't hear
There's-
both of us when you're talking
There's a
over
contradiction,
me.
and you're
the
wasting
interpreters
time.
can't.
You're wasting my time.
Well,
thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Order, well, to both.
All right, gang, we're going to cross over to question period now. It's a bit early. Chris Murray, I said no jokes. That Jennifer O'Connell replacement joke, it's making me laugh out loud. Like, anyways, let's get into this. Question period is on the go. And we have a conservative speaking, so, oh, no. Oh, we'll be right there in a moment.
Wife has MS, and her own journey with living with the disease is proof that the research into how we can diagnose, treat, prevent, and one day repair the effects of MS is working. An investment in MS research is an investment in the lives of Canadians and letting them live long and rewarding lives. Better funding for MS research is more than justified by the work hours and life experience currently being lost to our society. I will continue to stand with MS Canada so that little by little, these brave Canadians can stand strong and one day live free of this disease. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver-Granville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in this House to congratulate my constituent, Ms. Amal Misbah, on receiving the 2025 Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence in STEM. This award, Canada's highest honour for elementary and secondary school teachers, recognizes STEM educators who go above and beyond in fostering engaging learning environments and preparing students for a digital and innovation-based economy. Ms. Misbah teaches chemistry to grade 11 and 12 students at York House, an all-girls school in my riding. Described by her students as passionate and a life changer, she teaches through engaging discussion-based learning, challenging students to think critically and to focus on why things happen, rather than relying only on memorization. She adapts her lessons to suit her students' needs and feedback, helping them build confidence and develop a real understanding of chemistry. I again want to congratulate Ms. Amal Misbah on her extraordinary dedication to learning. Thank you for inspiring the next generation of scientists, innovators, and leaders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Langley Township.
We have a new normal in Canada. Food banks as a lifeline for many Canadian families. Now, the Liberals like to boast that they're helping families, but here's the reality. Canada Food Banks reports 2.2 million monthly visits this year, twice what it was 6 years ago. This is what the report says. Behind every food bank visit is a story. A parent skipping meals so that their kids can eat. A senior choosing between medication and groceries. A worker juggling multiple jobs and still coming up short. These are now outliers according to the report, Mr. Speaker. This is Canada's new normal. And this bears out in my community as well. 25 new families per month at the Langley Food Banks this year. 500 families served per month and over 1,400 individuals. I want to thank the dedicated volunteers and donors who make the Langley Food Bank a great success story in a difficult environment made worse by this government's mismanagement of our economy. Thank you, donors. Thank you, volunteers.
The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, today I would like to highlight the exceptional commitment of the 2025 edition of the Bromont Ultra. Since its inception, this sporting and philanthropic event has raised more than $5 million for causes that bring us together, a remarkable achievement that reflects the solidarity and determination that characterize our region. It's with deep sadness that we learned of the tragic passing of Richard Cochon, a longtime volunteer and former executive director of the organization. Richard embodied generosity, dedication, and kindness. His smile and commitment will leave a lasting impression on the hearts of all who knew him. On behalf of the citizens of Brome-Missisquoi, I offer my sincere condolences to his partner, Sylvie Adam, his family, his loved ones, and the entire Bromont Ultra family. May his example continue to inspire our actions and commitments. Rest in peace, Richard. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Central Newfoundland.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to the life of Captain Woodrow James Philpott of Cottlesville, Newfoundland and Labrador, who passed peacefully away on October 12, 2025, just 10 days shy of his 92nd birthday. Captain Philpott was a pillar of his community, a man of deep faith, integrity, and compassion. He also took an active interest in local and provincial politics, always striving to make his community a better place. Over his remarkable life, he worked in logging and in the fishery, and became a ship's captain, and he owned and operated several vessels, such as the Lady Philpott and the Free Trade. He told me the story of sailing the ladder from England to Newfoundland at the time of the Free Trade Agreement with the United States and in 1988, and how that was the inspiration in renaming that vessel. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the House, I extend sincere condolences to his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all who were blessed to know him.
The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to mark Women's History Month, a time when we celebrate the achievements and contributions of women.
We honor the women who inspire us, whose courage, creativity, and leadership strengthen our communities and enrich us all. Today, I want to pay tribute to Dr. Lucy Gilbert, a leading medical researcher and physician whose world-leading work with the Dovey Gene Project uses genomics to detect ovarian and endometrial cancers early, which greatly increases the chances of a positive outcome for women. Her innovation has the potential to save countless thousands of women's lives around the world and is a powerful example of Canadian excellence in science and medicine.
This Women's History Month, let us celebrate their legacy, amplify their voices, and continue our commitment to a Canada where every woman and girl can reach her full potential. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Ready, I ready. Proud, proven, professional. For 115 years, the Royal Canadian Navy has defended Canada's sovereignty at sea. Today is Navy and Coast Guard Appreciation Day on Parliament Hill. This morning, I was honoured to attend a ceremony in the Senate recognizing 15 sailors for their excellence in service. The men and women of the Royal Canadian Navy, the Naval Reserve, and the Canadian Coast Guard keep our sea lines open, assert sovereignty on all three coasts, and project Canadian strength and goodwill around the world. From the Battle Atlantic, the Korean War, Persian Gulf, East Timor, and Libya, our sailors have answered the call at home and abroad. As a Navy veteran, know that Conservatives will always stand with and support the sailors of the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Coast Guard, ensuring they have the ships, personnel, and equipment they need to defend our freedom. On behalf of all members of the House of Commons, to every sailor past and present, and to the families who stand watch with them, bravo Zulu. Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, the Haute-Yamaska and Region Business Assistance Centre recently celebrated its 40th anniversary. A festive and unifying event successfully marked 4 decades of contributing to the region's economy. Since 1985, the centre has been an essential partner in promoting the local economy by vigorously supporting, financing, and accompanying entrepreneurs and businesses. If the Haute-Yamaska region is an important economic driver for Quebec, it's largely thanks to the dynamism of this centre. A special thought goes out to the Executive Director, Isabelle Brochu, who has contributed to the centre's growth over the years, and I had the pleasure of discussing a shared interest with her, women's entrepreneurship. We can be proud of the region's entrepreneurs, and I would like to extend my sincere congratulations to the centre and the region for its 40 years of commitment to our entrepreneurs. As a pillar of prosperity in Haute-Yamaska, I wish you continued success in the years to come, because ultimately it's people who are behind this success.
The Honourable Member for Tayayakan, Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 1940, Priscilla Wright was born, and 15 years later, she had a hit record. She later sang with Elvis and now chairs a family foundation inspired by her parents and grandfather Arthur Meehan, 9th Prime Minister of Canada. In 2001, Abi Ajibodalade arrived in Canada as a new immigrant from Nigeria. 15 years later, she became Executive Director of the Redwood, which provides safety and support for women and children fleeing violence in Toronto. Under her leadership and with Priscilla's support, the Redwood created their Women in Trades and Technology program. It helps women rebuild their lives and gives them tuition and other assistance to get jobs in traditionally male-dominated fields. This weekend, the 7th cohort of this program graduated, and 40 women were recognized, including one as the Priscilla Wright HVAC Technician Program Valedictorian. She shared that she never thought she'd work in HVAC or work with combustible gas. She said that she was forged in the flame, got control of it, and came out stronger. She is now a licensed G2 gas technician. I want to pay tribute today to pioneers in the arts, social services, tech, and the trades, women breaking barriers, defying expectations, building Canada.
The honourable member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
You know, small business owners used to say their biggest worry was making payroll. Now it's keeping their doors from being kicked in. In Vancouver, a restaurant owner, Foz, has been hit so many times by break-ins that the latest one looked like something out of a bad comic book. The thief came dressed as Spider-Man with a knife in his hand. But there's nothing funny about it. His staff are scared to come to work. He's lost over $100,000, and he's stopped calling the police because every time the same people are back on the street before the paperwork's even done. This is what happened because the Liberals brought in soft on-crime bail laws that turn revolving doors into escape hatches. Criminals walk free while honest Canadians pay the price in fear, in lost income, in shattered confidence. Canadians deserve better. We need to keep repeat violent offenders off our streets and give people the confidence to open their doors again. It's time to restore safety, restore fairness, and bring back common sense to our justice system.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this year marks 100 years of service and compassion for the National Council of Jewish Women of Canada, the Winnipeg section. Since 1925, the Council has embodied the Jewish principle of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world through education, service, and social action. They helped Holocaust survivors rebuild their lives, welcomed refugees and newcomers, support women and families, and even created Canada's first seniors drop-in centre. In my community of Winnipeg South Centre, their work continues to inspire hope and strengthen the bonds that hold us together. In times of rising anti-Semitism and global conflict, their example reminds us of the power of compassion, justice, and commitment to human dignity. To all who have carried this mission forward in Winnipeg and beyond, Mazel Tov on 100 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
The Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, has been exposed as Canada's biggest tax dodger. According to expert analysis, Brookfield managed to avoid paying a staggering $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes through the use of offshore tax havens in just 5 years. As chair of Brookfield, the Prime Minister registered 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, all to avoid paying taxes in Canada, funds that the Prime Minister stands to profit from in the way of future bonus pay. Canadians deserve answers about the Prime Minister's use of offshore tax havens, and today this House will be voting on getting those answers. The question is, will Liberal MPs stand with taxpayers, or will they cover for their tax-dodging Prime Minister? We'll soon find out.
The honourable member from Madawaska, Rusty Goosh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, RayFam, a network of women entrepreneurs and professionals in the Madawaska region, held its annual gala, during which the prestigious 2025 Women Entrepreneur Award was presented to an inspiring mother-daughter duo of Nicole Deschênes and José Levesque, co-owners of Buffy Nicole et José. The entrepreneurial journey of these two businesswomen is a story of courage, passion, and perseverance. Since they're founding their company in 2004, their business has grown rapidly to become a well-known catering service. Their adaptability and constant focus on innovation have allowed them to stand out in a highly competitive sector. Today, more than 20 years after its start, they continue to run a thriving business based on trust, quality, and team spirit. During Women's History Month, let us pay tribute to all those who, like Nicole and José, contribute every day to the vitality of our communities, the growth of our economy, and the prosperity of our country. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton, Bequidgewanon.
Canadians are facing a hunger crisis. According to Food Banks Canada, monthly visits to food banks have doubled, up over 99% since 2019. 39% of the population experienced food insecurity in the last year alone. Of those turning to food banks, 1 in 5 are employed, 1 in 3 are children, and 1 in 4 are two-parent households. This is the legacy of 10 years of this Liberal government. Runaway spending, inflationary deficits, and hidden taxes on farmers, fuel, fertilizer, and packaging that drives up the cost of our food. The Prime Minister said Canadians should judge him by their grocery bills. Well, Food Banks Canada gave him a D on poverty and food insecurity. While the Liberals keep taxing Canadians into poverty, Conservatives will keep fighting to make life affordable by scrapping the hidden taxes on food and ending the Liberal cost of living crisis.
The honourable member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Mr. Speaker, on July 30th, 1975, an amendment to the National Defence Act extended full membership in the Royal Canadian Sea, Army, and Air Cadet to girls, changing boys to persons. This year marks 50 years of female inclusion in the Canadian...
Nobody better make any jokes. Like, that's not Gary Edisongre. That's the other Gary.
Cadet program. Today, more than 60,000 cadets across 1,100 communities benefit from this program that builds citizenship, leadership, and fitness. Female cadets have been trailblazers and leaders in the cadet program, the armed forces, and beyond. It would be an honor for this House to recognize the remarkable women of cadet program, some of whom have joined us today, and recommitting to ensuring every young Canadian, regardless of gender, has the chance to serve, lead, and grow. Thank you.
Questions orales, oral questions.
Let's go.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 10 years of deficit budgets that are inflationary, they've jacked the price of groceries, and Canadians are hungry, literally hungry, according to the report of Food Banks Canada, a report called Hunger Record or Final Record 2025. The Liberals have made lineups longer and longer at food banks, and people with two jobs or two incomes still can't afford enough food. Will the Liberals finally bring in a budget to make life and groceries affordable? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Oui, nous allons.
Yes, we're going to table a budget to make life affordable and food affordable, and I hope the Leader of the Opposition will support it, Mr. Speaker.
Opposition.
We're not going to support a budget that balloons grocery prices like the last 9 inflationary Liberal budgets. According to Food Banks Canada, there are 100% more people using food banks. And one of them is Jacqueline Stone, a mother in Manitoba, who has 2 jobs but still can't afford food. She works at the grocery store, Mr. Speaker, but she can't afford groceries. What cruel irony. Will the government finally table a budget that's affordable? The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, the opposition leader is promising that woman a Christmas election. So I hope she'll be able to afford a Christmas dinner, because the opposition leader, 6 months after an election, is going to vote in favor of another one. I'm not sure everyone behind him agrees with that, but Mr. Speaker, the government will table a budget next week, and the opposition leader should support it, just like Food Banks Canada, who have supported all of our initiatives to make life more affordable, and the Conservatives voted against them.
After 9 Liberal tax and spend inflationary and costly deficits, Canadians are hungry. Hungry for an affordable budget. Hungry, according to a report by Food Banks Canada called the Hunger Count, which shows that there's been a 100% increase in the number of people relying on food banks since Liberals brought in numerous taxes on food. Will the Prime Minister finally, for the first time, introduce an affordable budget for affordable food and affordable living?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, in fact,
Someone recently said that there's early signs of progress, including easing housing pressures and new social supports that are offering progress. In fact, this person went on to say that ambitious poverty reduction strategies like affordable housing pilots and the Canadian Dental Care Plan and the National School Food Program are showing early promise. Guess who said that, Mr. Speaker? The CEO of Foods Bank Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If any of that were true, there would not be a 100% increase in the number of people relying on food banks. The numbers speak for themselves, Mr. Speaker, and that's after a decade of liberal inflationary taxes and deficits that have driven 2.2 million people to the food bank. One of them is Jacqueline Stone. She works 2 jobs. She works at a grocery store, Mr. Speaker. She cannot afford to shop at the grocery store where she works. In her name and in the name of 2.2 million people lined up at food banks, will we finally get an affordable budget for affordable food and affordable living?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
So I just heard the Leader of the Opposition say that the CEO of the Food Bank, Canada Food Bank, actually doesn't know what she's talking about when she wrote the report that they're quoting from. It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker? But I will say this. It's clear that the member opposite is driving for a Christmas election, and I really hope that's not true, because Canadians are counting on us to pass this budget, to make the school food program permanent, to increase the benefits that Canadians are working on for so hard for, including the announcement yesterday for service support workers.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If they want their budget passed, they have to make it an affordable budget so that there's affordable food and affordable quality of life for the Canadian people, including people like Jacqueline Stone. As I said, she works at a grocery store and can't afford groceries. We already know about carpenters who build homes but can't afford homes after 10 years of Liberals. This is the story she tells. She says you find yourself going through the grocery store, grabbing what you need, and when you get ready to check out, you pretty much have to do an audit of your cart to see if you can afford everything. Sometimes you have to put things back. It's embarrassing and disheartening. People like her have been working too hard for too long. Will they get an affordable budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
You're here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives cannot have it both ways. They say Canadians are facing challenges, and yet they dismiss the ways of helping them get through these challenges. The same Food Banks Canada report they cite mentions the Canada Disability Benefit, the Canadian Dental Care Plan, the National School Food Program, the National Housing Strategy as steps taken to address the underlying conditions that contribute to poverty. When it comes time to step up, what did the Conservatives opposite do? They voted against these supports. They will have another opportunity to change their tune and support that budget.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I found my sweater.
Speaker, if any of those promises were actually coming true, we wouldn't have a 100% increase in the number of people lined up at food bank, a number that has increased again this year after this Prime Minister took office promising that he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store. 700,000 kids, a record number, are lined up at food banks while they make phony promises that they never keep on the Liberal side of the aisle. Every dollar the government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians who can't pay any more. The more Liberals spend, the more things cost. Will they finally bring forward an affordable budget for affordable food so Canadians can have an affordable life?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, so either the member opposite, the Leader of the Conservative Party, wants a Christmas election, or he wants to deny what's in that actual report, which is to take action to make programs that are making Canadians' lives more affordable, stronger, permanent, and more generous, which is what we've done, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do it. In fact, what the CEO has said is that we're on the right track. We have to continue to move forward, and we really hope they don't vote against these things again.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Canada, including Quebec, is entering one of the worst trade crises we've ever experienced. The Prime Minister has given everything up for nothing in exchange, and now, literally, there's a full-fledged squabble with the U.S. president. I'd like to know, and people need to know, what the government intends to do to restore decent relations with the U.S. The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade. Mr. Speaker, our colleague knows full well that our government is always willing to sit down and cooperate with the American government, with the ministers in Trump's government, and to negotiate what's in the interest of Canadian industries and workers. We are always available. The Prime Minister has said that repeatedly, Mr. Speaker. But meanwhile, we're not going to sit around and wait. We're going to make sure we protect Canadian industries, that we build a strong economy here in Canada, and that we invest in all necessary industries. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Malgré les promesses.
Despite the promises and claims, the humble claims by the Prime Minister during the election campaign, things haven't gotten any better. They've gotten worse. With the tariffs on trucks and autos, 45% in tariffs and countervailing duties on forestry, on steel and aluminum, 50% tariffs. What do you have to say to the workers and to vulnerable consumers and investors who are being told nothing's going to change for a long time, to well into 2026? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, what we're saying to investors who are looking at the Canadian economy, what are we going to say to workers in Canada who are obviously concerned about tariffs? We're going to say that the government is there. We're there to support them, to invest, to take steps, to get major projects underway, to support industries affected by customs duties and tariffs, but we also are always ready to negotiate with the U.S. to put ourselves in a better economic position. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Are we supposed to wait until the U.S. is in a better mood to talk? Meanwhile, there's inflation, recession, companies, plants closing down. There's nothing being done to make sure that Canada and the provinces speak from the same songbook. They're doing nothing about the loss in purchasing power. When is this government going to admit failure and cooperate so that we have at least a tiny chance of pulling something off? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc leader knows full well that our government has always cooperated with our counterparts in the provinces and territories, with the captains of industry and with worker representatives. I'll be in Montreal this weekend to meet with Minister Fréchette to speak specifically about what can be done together, what more can be done to support Quebec industries and Quebec workers and all across Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The main promise that the Prime Minister was elected on was to negotiate a victory with the Americans. He promised a deal by July 21st. And now there's no deal, there's no victory, and U.S. tariffs have doubled since the Prime Minister promised to get rid of them. And he's blaming a Government of Ontario ad for the lack of a deal. Yes or no? Had the Prime Minister or his staff seen the ad before it ran? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the opposition leader knows full well that this government will not accept any old deal. We have clearly said that we will negotiate a deal with the U.S. government if it's in the interests of Canadian workers and industries. Canadians know full well that the opposition leader would have accepted any old deal. That's not Canada's position. We need to support Canadian industries and workers at the same time.
The signature promise on which the Prime Minister was elected was to, quote unquote, negotiate a win with the Americans, to get a deal by July 21st. And here we are, late October, still no deal, still no win, still no elbows, still no jobs, and American tariffs have doubled since the Prime Minister promised he would get rid of them. Yesterday, his latest excuse was that an Ontario government ad prevented him from keeping his promise. So, yes or no? Did the Prime Minister or his staff see the ad before it went out?
Yes. The Honourable
He saw the ad. Everybody knows he saw the ad.
Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat the answer I just gave to the Leader of the Opposition in French, because he asked the same question in English. Our government, Mr. Speaker, was elected to negotiate an agreement with the United States that's in the interests of Canadian workers and the Canadian industries. Unlike the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, we're not going to sign whatever agreement the Americans might suggest. We're going to sign an agreement that benefits Canadian workers and the Canadian economy. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we're going to build in Canada, we're going to invest in Canada, and we're going to support Canadian workers and Canadian business.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister promised that he'd have a good deal by July 21st. That date has come and gone. And his latest excuse is an ad from the Government of Ontario. He claims that's why he couldn't keep his promise and get a deal. So, yes or no? Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said a moment ago, our government is committed to working with all partners in our federation, to work with premiers in every part of the country, to work with union leaders and business leaders, to support the Canadian economy and Canadian workers, and to negotiate with the Americans for a deal that's in the interests of Canada. That's been the government position from the beginning. I'm proud of the work that we've done with all the premiers and businesses and union leaders across the country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, it's the Prime Minister who has said that the ad prevented him from keeping his promise and getting a deal. He claims he was on the verge of getting that deal. Yep. So surely if he saw an ad that would interrupt the deal, he would have said no and hit the brakes. So the question is, yes or no? Did the Prime Minister or anyone on his staff see the ad before it went out? Yes or no?
He saw the ad, and he wanted it to run.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to doing the serious work necessary to get a deal with the United States and to build a strong, resilient Canadian economy. That was the commitment we made to Canadians in the election. That was an election that the Leader of the Opposition lost because people didn't believe he would be serious in either supporting Canadian workers, Canadian businesses, or standing up to the Americans for a deal that's in the interest of all Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
All right, go Pierre.
Being serious
do it 4 times.
Means being honest and telling Canadians. Did the Prime Minister
It's already been outed. Like, Carney saw this ad October 15th. He had all the time to put the brakes on. So Pierre is making a statement now by making the Liberal cabinet lie for their stupid boss. It's very interesting.
Okay, the member can continue, and we'll get a few extra seconds to make up for the interruption.
Being honest is a joke to these Liberals, Mr. Speaker.
There can't be too many interruptions because I can't afford that much time, but if the member could continue.
Did the Prime Minister or his staff see the ad before it went out? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade.
Mr. Speaker, I can imagine the frustration that the Leader of the Opposition feels when he sees a Prime Minister elected to take this serious economic and sovereignty challenge with all of the seriousness it deserves. That's why Canadians thought the Leader of the Opposition wasn't up to that task. That's why Canadians chose a Prime Minister who takes serious issues seriously, who will defend Canadian workers and Canadian businesses, stand up for the right deal for Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister says the reason he doesn't have a deal is because of an ad. Did he or his staff see the ad before it went out? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
It's almost entrapment, but...
Again, Mr. Speaker, I can understand the Leader of the Opposition may be frustrated for a whole series of reasons. He's got a caucus meeting coming up this week. He may be very concerned about that as well. Mr. Speaker, what I can tell the Leader of the Opposition and all colleagues in the House is the Prime Minister is committed to doing the difficult, serious work necessary to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts by supporting Canadian workers, building big in Canada again, and doing everything necessary to get the deal with the Americans that will be in the interest of Canadian workers and Canadian business.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, there are 100,000 more Canadian workers out of a job since the Prime Minister promised to protect their jobs. He says that they're going to get the best economy in the G7. It's the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. I met with auto workers in Windsor over the weekend who are terrified that the Prime Minister's failures are going to cost them their jobs. He looked those workers in the eyes and he said he would have a good deal by July 21st, and he broke his promise. Now he's blaming an ad. He has a duty to say whether or not he saw the ad that he says blew up the so-called deal he had. So will he do the honest thing and answer the question, did he see the ad, or is it actually his incompetence?
Go, Pierre. This is good. It's going to be hard to hide behind this.
Mr. Speaker, just because the Leader of the Opposition keeps asserting the same fake premise doesn't make it real. What is real, Mr. Speaker, is the government of Canada can control certain things. We can control investments that we make in partnership with Canadian businesses and Canadian workers to build a strong economy here. We can work with provinces and territories, as we're proud to do, to defend the Canadian economy and to work with the United States to get an agreement that will be in the interests of Canada, something the Leader of the Opposition will never get a chance to do.
The Honourable Member
Dominic
for
Labal's
Mirabel.
being a bitch.
Mr. Speaker, the cat's out of the bag. Yesterday, the Liberal leader openly threatened to call an election by Christmas if his budget doesn't pass as is. After zero pre-budget consultations, zero witnesses heard in committee, and zero requests from the opposition entertained, the Liberals are already resorting to blackmail instead of trying to find common ground. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers elected a minority government. Minority means working with the other parties. Why don't the Liberals get down to work instead of threatening elections? The Honourable Government House Leader. Since the member opposite has done me the honor of quoting me, I'm going to give him a little math lesson. The fact is we are a minority government, but we estimate that there are enough votes to give us a mandate to table a budget and propose an economic plan to Canadians. And that includes entering into trade deals with the U.S. Canadians gave us that mandate. The only question is which opposition party is going to opt to send Canadians back to the polls at Christmas.
They all should.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel.
Go,
Mr.
girl.
Speaker, when the Prime Minister with this mathematician across the way, said when he said he was reaching out to the opposition, we thought it was to work together, not slap us around. And yet that promise has been broken with the threat of elections. You might say this isn't his only broken promise. He also promised to protect us from Trump. But unlike talks with Trump, the Prime Minister has complete control over budget talks. Mr. Speaker, there are crises in healthcare, quality of life for seniors, housing and home ownership, outdated infrastructure, and so on. Why not work together to resolve these crises instead of threatening elections? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Culture and Identity. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to reassure my honourable and friendly colleague that there's no slapping going on this side of the House. The House Leader met with the Bloc members. I myself have met with Bloc members to hear their demands for the budget. In the budget, there will be steps around affordability and housing. The Bloc has had their say on how we can help Canadians. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, according to Moisson Quebec, over 84,000 people are supported each month by their network. This represents a 30% increase since 2022. In addition, a study by Aviseo for Quebec food banks shows that food insecurity is becoming entrenched and the need is here to stay. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is asking Quebecers to make sacrifices, knowing he won't have to make any himself. Since coming to power, he's done absolutely nothing to reduce the cost of living. When will the Liberals understand that their inflationary deficits are driving up the cost of food and pushing Canadians into the food banks? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Culture and Identity. When the member asks that kind of question, I wonder whether he even read the Food Banks Canada report. And I'll quote from it. In order to improve affordability, they call on the government to boost the benefits for disabled Canadians. The Conservative Party voted against that. Implementing a national food school program, one of the Conservatives called that garbage. And also to create a national housing strategy, they said they were going to vote against that. There's a lot of hypocrisy on the other side of the House. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, we will not be lectured by that side of the House. Here on this side of the House, we're opposed to the inflationary measures of the Liberals. Inflation is going up because of government spending. It's been out of control for 10 years. Will the Prime Minister agree to stop the inflationary spending in order to help Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Of all the things that the Conservatives have said over and over again, the one that confuses me the most is inflationary spending. What is inflationary spending? Is it pensions? Is it health care? Is it spending to support young people and jobs? Is it the major projects? Which of those is inflationary spending? Once and for all, could the member clear up any doubt around what they mean by inflationary spending?
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, Jacqueline Stone is a mom from Manitoba, from Landmark, Manitoba. She's working two jobs. One is a bus driver and one at the grocery store, and yet she can't afford to feed her own family and lost her home because of rising interest rates. She said, you find yourself going to the grocery store, grabbing what you need, then doing an audit of your cart to see what you can afford, and sometimes having to put things back. It's embarrassing, she said. Mr. Speaker, the only people that should be embarrassed are the Liberals, because after 10 years in power, this is how expensive it's become to live in Canada. The reckless deficit spending has created Canada's inflation problem. When will it end so that Canadians like Jacqueline can afford to live?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives opposite should listen to Canadians who are on the front lines and who are working in favour of making the school food program permanent. The Coalition for Healthy School Food called the program a generationally important decision that will change the future of Canadian society and the health and well-being of children. Children First Canada said this isn't about just food, it's about dignity, learning, and equity. And the Ontario Public School Boards Association said it will strengthen student well-being and success.
I was looking for my sweater for a long time, so I'm glad that I found it. And also, just notice, Anna Gainey has a huge Adam's apple for such a small neck.
Yes. These are Canadians on the front lines fighting food insecurity in our communities. I would encourage us all to support the budget that will make the National School Food Program permanent. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Speaker, I don't think Liberals understand the state of Canada after 10 years of their government. Ms. Stone lost her home because mortgage rates skyrocketed as a result of rising interest rates caused by their massive Liberal deficits. She works at a grocery store and yet can't afford the food at the grocery store. In fact, over 2 million Canadians use food banks in a single month this year. 1 in 5 are employed. 1/3 are children. Mr. Speaker, is this what the Liberals envisioned after 10 years in power, that millions of Canadians would be struggling to afford food? They owe Canadians an explanation. How is this possible in Canada in 2025?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the hypocrisy from Conservatives is staggering. It's unbelievable to hear this kind of outrage from Conservatives who voted against and fought against all of the affordability programs. First and foremost, housing affordability, which they've shown no support for decades. We are focused on delivering, and we're seeing results. Average rents are coming down, home prices are coming down, mortgage rates are coming down.
This loser pretty much destroyed Vancouver all on his own. He's 61 years old and looks like that. There's something doesn't add up with this clown freak show of corruption and conspiracy. He's hands deep, balls deep with China. Like,
that's affordability, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Moose Jaw Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians want dignity and to be able to feed their families without relying on food banks. Under this Liberal government, they can't. Food Banks Canada reports 2.2 million visits in a single month. The food bank in Moose Jaw is helping out twice as many people as they were 2 years ago. Families don't want handouts. They want their paychecks to go further so they can buy their own groceries. When will this Prime Minister stop forcing working families into food lines and start reining in their out-of-control spending so that their parents can actually afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Speaker, the Conservatives voted no to dental care, no to the National School Food Program, no to the Canada Child Benefit, and no to a tax cut that helped 22 million Canadians. Our government brought in these measures to make life more affordable for Canadians, to help families, support workers, build a stronger Canada. But there's good news, Mr. Speaker. There's good news. On November 4th, the Conservative Party will have another chance, a chance to say yes to Canadians and yes to measures that make a real difference in people's lives. Mr. Speaker, will they stand with Canadians or will they continue to stand in the way?
The Honourable Member for Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas.
In another display of arrogance and ignorance, the Conservative leader claimed that the National School Food Program is just bureaucracy. And another Conservative said that feeding hungry kids was garbage. In my riding, this program is already making a real difference, and educators say it's one of the best ways to help kids succeed. How will the Secretary of State for Children and Youth respond to this deplorable Conservative misinformation?
Good question. The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague, the member from the City of Hamilton, for
Butch is back.
His question. Conservative MPs really ought to listen to the folks on the ground fighting food insecurity, like the Breakfast Club, the Coalition of Healthy School Food, the Canadian Teachers Federation, who have all called for the making of the National School Food Program to be permanent because of the positive impact it has on children. With federal funding, 9.8 million more meals will be served to children across Ontario alone, representing $800 in savings on groceries for families. Mr. Speaker, we will protect and strengthen the supports that help ensure children have the best start in life.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a win with the United States. For British Columbia, that means negotiating a softwood lumber agreement. In response to the collapse of trade negotiations on Friday, the Prime Minister failed to even mention softwood. Since he took office, softwood tariffs tripled, going from 14 to 45%. Just yesterday, Sinclair Forest Products reduced its production by 40% in 3 of their mills in northern BC. 350 mill workers are affected by the cuts. When will this Prime Minister finally stand up for forestry workers?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, as someone who grew up in a forestry town in northern Vancouver Island, I understand the issue.
That's right.
The softwood lumber is the lifeblood of the small forestry communities in this country. We are talking with the premiers. We are working together. We've been very clear the U.S. tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber are absolutely unjustified, and we are working very hard to resolve this.
The Honourable Member for Prince George Peace River, Northern Rockies.
BC forestry workers that I know don't want handouts. They want their good-paying jobs back.
Hear, hear.
BC Council of Forest Industries President and CEO Kim Hackstead said last week, the recent increase in U.S. tariffs and duties is a serious blow to an industry already strained by years of uncertainty, mill closures, and job losses. The federal government must make resolving the softwood lumber dispute a national priority. When will the Prime Minister finally stand up for BC forest workers?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, that's why we've put together a $700 million liquidity package. That's why we put together a $500 million retooling fund. That's why we're meeting with the premiers to work on this every single day. This industry has been unfairly and unjustly treated by the Americans. We will work hard to fix that.
The Honourable Member for Kenora, Kiiwetinoong.
The Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a win with the United States, but he's broken that promise when it comes to softwood lumber.
That's right.
Softwood tariffs were at 14% when he took office, then they jumped to 35%, and they're now 45%, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister has sold out our workers as softwood tariffs have tripled. Now the Ear Falls sawmill is facing an indefinite shutdown affecting hundreds of workers and devastating the entire community.
Sad.
Yet the Liberals have not lifted a finger to provide any support. So, Mr. Speaker, will this Prime Minister stop selling out Canadian workers?
Hear, hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, $50 million in EI support is not nothing. $700 million in liquidity support is not nothing. $500 million in retooling support is not nothing. Mr. Speaker, we are working hard to solve this problem for the Canadian workers.
The Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised that he would negotiate a win with the United States by July 21st. He has broken that promise, leaving softwood lumber workers out of work and out in the cold. When he took office, softwood tariffs were at 14%, and now they're at 45%. And the Prime Minister didn't even mention our mill workers in Washington. Workers in Grand Forks are worried about their mortgages, their neighbors, and how they're going to afford their next meal. When will the Prime Minister stop selling out our lumber workers and finally get the deal that he promised them?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we have been clear. The U.S. tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber are absolutely unjustified. We are working at every level to resolve this. The $50 million in EI support, the $700 million in liquidity support, the $500 million in retooling. We are working very hard to solve this issue, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister promised Canadians he would negotiate a win with the United States. When this Prime Minister took office, softwood lumber tariffs were at 14%. Then they climbed to 35%. Now they are at 45%. Because of his failures, mills have closed their doors and forestry towns are paying the price. In Miramichi, we have seen mills closures at Arbec Forest Products just because this Prime Minister can't close a deal. When will this Prime Minister put his big boy pants on and finally stand up for Canada's forest industry?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people of Miramichi, the people of Bathurst, the people of Chipman, Minto, Madawaska, all through northwest, northeastern New Brunswick know that the softwood lumber industry is a key part of our economic future. But the tariffs are putting our workers and businesses in jeopardy. That's why we put real solutions on the table. Right. $700 million in support through the Business Development Bank. $500 million for retooling, $50 million for worker supports.
That's right.
That's alongside the Strategic Research Fund, Response Fund that helps our businesses pivot and adapt. This is the kind of support we need in New Brunswick and across Canada.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister came to power, American tariffs on softwood lumber were 14%. Then they went up to 35%. And now they're at 45%. And don't forget, there's 10% more that might be in the pipeline. In Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, that's $910 million in salaries for our workers. Not only the Prime Minister hasn't managed to negotiate an agreement, but tariffs have tripled since he came to power. Why is the Prime Minister abandoning forest workers and their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that softwood lumber builds...
It's mad science. This freak.
Our country through construction and other uses across Quebec and across New Brunswick and BC. But we also know that tariffs are putting our workers and our businesses at risk. And that is why we have solutions. $500 million for businesses, $500 million for... business development, and more money for EI support. These measures are on top of the strategic fund that is helping our businesses adapt and innovate. We are there for our sector. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the forestry sector is being attacked by American tariffs that are now at 45%. The failure of this Liberal government's negotiations with the Americans is putting thousands of forestry jobs in danger in Canada. In Chaudière-Appalaches, the forestry sector represents $788 million in salaries, and that's threatened. Mr. Speaker, my question is very simple. Will the Liberal government finally stop working just for big cities and work for rural Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Last Friday, I was with my colleague from the Pays d'en Haut to meet with one of these businesses to talk with them about the measures that the federal government has put in place. $710 million in cash through the Canada Development Bank, $500 million to modernize businesses. We are working with the sector. We will be there for the softwood lumber sector, Mr. Speaker. I understand this issue. We will be there for the workers. We will be there for the communities.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, I drafted Conservative Private Members Bill C-225. This is known as Bailey's Law and is the most dramatic bill to address intimate partner violence in Canadian history. Bailey's family here, Trish, Debbie, are present in Ottawa and they are watching. Mr. Speaker, they want to know, victims want to know, will the Liberals back Bill C-225, yes or no? Show some respect.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the member raises a very important concern that Canadians have and our government shares. We've always stood up against gender-based violence, Mr. Speaker. We currently have a bill in the House, Bill C-9, that addresses femicide and makes it a first-degree a conditional first-degree crime in that bill, Mr. Speaker. We're also making bail harder to obtain for those accused of sexual offences, including those involving choking, suffocation, and strangulation. We're also going to be bringing a gender-based violence bill later on this year, Mr. Speaker. So we're working on all fronts.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, these Liberals tell us all they're doing in Bill C-14. They could be doing more by passing Bill C-225. Mr. Speaker, I spoke with Flo Bellman and Paul Henderson. Their daughter, Darian, was killed by her intimate partner. They support this bill. Trish and Debbie support this bill. NDP Premier David Eby supports this bill. I see that minister is wearing a button. Why doesn't she swap that button for a purple ribbon and get behind this bill, let the family know, ditch the button, get the ribbon, and support this bill? Yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, It's not about buttons or ribbons. Of course, my button is about supporting the RCMP, and I
It's a prop. Like right there, this chick, who's supposed to be like a justice representative for our country, is explaining how she can wear a prop because she supports it. They're going to jam this down our throats next. Like, this liberal government is hateful.
support law enforcement across this country that often has to address a lot of these situations. It's important, Mr. Speaker, that we take important measures and steps to fight gender-based violence in our country, and we're doing exactly that. We have a bill in this House right now. We're bringing a very comprehensive bill in the coming weeks on gender-based violence, and I'd love to work with the member opposite to address this issue, this very serious issue, in the best way possible.
The Honourable Member for Honeymoon. Mr. Speaker, when I was at high school in Northern Ontario, the school breakfast program helped me very often. It's not easy to say, but that program really helped me to get through school and succeed. These programs change lives, Mr. Speaker. They are not, as the opposition calls them, garbage. Can the Secretary of State tell us how many children have already benefited from the National School Food Program? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Honeymoon for his question. In Quebec, we are offering funding of $65 million to support the school food program in that province. It helps more than 700,000 kids in over 2,000 schools, and our support allows families to save $800 on groceries every year. Mr. Speaker, this program isn't garbage. We are delivering for the well-being of kids across the country.
Member for Foothills.
Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola are punishing farmers and driving up food costs for Canadians. Almost 6 million tons of canola is being blocked from China, and yet the Prime Minister and the Agriculture Minister have not met with their Chinese counterparts. In fact, at committee, the Agriculture Minister admitted that he hasn't even discussed the tariffs with his Beijing counterpart. While farmers are being punished by these tariffs, the Liberals are standing on the sidelines. Will the Prime Minister, when he meets with his Chinese counterpart this week, fight for farmers, get tariff reductions, or will he come back empty-handed yet again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One thing that we can be proud of is our canola producers, because they are making the best canola in the world. China is putting absolutely unjustified tariffs on our producers. Yes, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Agriculture are in Asia right now. They are looking at new markets for our producers, but they will also try to fix this trade dispute. But that's not it, Mr. Speaker. We are there to support our producers in the meantime with the Canadian biofuel markets. We are also supporting producers with...
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
They should be supporting Canadian producers by getting those markets back. When the tariffs were put on Canadian canola, the Prime Minister promised he'd have high-level engagement. It's been 8 months, no engagement, and the tariffs from China have actually increased. Right. And it's not just canola. Peas, pork, seafood are all facing Chinese tariffs. Canadian beef has been blocked from China since 2021. Farm families are literally paying for Liberal inaction. Yeah. Farmers deserve to be a priority. When the Prime Minister meets with the Chinese President, will he get reductions on these tariffs, or will he come home empty-handed yet again?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it's completely false to claim that this government is not advancing the interests of Canadian farmers and Canadian agriculture. When I was in the Indo-Pacific just 10 days ago, I raised the issues relating to agriculture with my Chinese and Indian counterparts. Let me assure this House that at all times we are advancing the interests of our farmers, and let me assure this House that the minister responsible is in the region at the time doing just that, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister isn't even meeting with his counterparts on his trip, and he's proving to be as ineffective as his predecessor. Harvest on the prairies is coming to an end, and Canadian farmers are still enduring tariffs on canola and pulse products imposed by China. Exports of these crops to China have halted, and they need relief while the government is slow to act. Ahead of a meeting with the President of China, the Prime Minister says things will take time. Meanwhile, farmers' bins are full, and there's no new markets for them to go to. With food prices skyrocketing and farm profitability dropping, Canadians want to know, is the Prime Minister getting a deal done, or will he come home empty-handed yet again?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, let me reiterate, when I was in the Indo-Pacific, I reiterated the interests of Canadian farmers and the agricultural sector writ large on canola, on agricultural products, as well as on seafood and other items. Let me also reiterate that we will seek to diversify supply chains for Canadian industry across the board with countries outside and inside the region so as to grow this economy and make it the strongest in the G7.
The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, skilled trade workers are essential to building the homes, infrastructure and economy that Canadians rely on every day. Unions play a critical role in training the next generation of tradespeople and helping to address persistent labour shortages. Can the Secretary of State for Labour tell this House how Budget 2025 is supporting union-based apprenticeship training and helping more Canadians building rewarding, high-paying careers in the skilled trades? Thank you.
Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, the BC building trades are in town, and their message is clear. It's time to build, and we agree with them. We're investing in major infrastructure projects across the country. We're building more homes, but none of that happens without the people who are going to do the building. That's why through Budget 2025, we're doubling the Union Training Innovation Program, strengthening the Red Seal trades and creating more opportunities for apprentices. Mr. Speaker, this is about investing in people, investing in our workers, because when we invest in our union workers, we invest in Canada's futures. I hope the other parties join us in voting for the budget on November 4th.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, Quebec has already noted its 15th feminicide since the beginning of the year. We learned this morning that since 2015, the number of women who are victims of conjugal violence has gone up by 39% across Canada. Bailey McCord died because the system didn't protect her. Gabby Renault died because the system protects criminals more than it protects victims. Their families are asking for more protection and less lax sentencing. The Conservatives are listening to victims and are proposing concrete solutions like Bill C-225. Will the Liberal government finally listen to Conservatives and keep dangerous criminals in prison instead of sending them home? The Honourable Secretary of State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This isn't the first time that I rise in the House because the situation facing women who are victims of feminicide affects all of us across Canada. I'm very well aware of this. But what's important is that we have an integrated, wide-ranging approach, and there are already bills that we have tabled which will allow us to act. So we think that we need to support the overall structure, and that is how we are going to support the Canadian system, which will prevent violence against women.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Housing cost is the biggest contributing factor to the affordability crisis. Notwithstanding the promise of Build Canada homes, new homes won't materialize until years from now, and there would be no federal subsidies to ensure affordability. Renters is in a crisis now. Corporate landlords are hiking rent far beyond inflation, and ordinary Canadians are being forced out of their homes. Housing profiteers are jacking up rent by 30, 40, even 50%. National vacancy control legislation will stop this gouging cold. Will the Prime Minister bring back a national vacancy control like one we used to have before the war to protect
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member for the question. This government is very focused on affordable housing, and in particular, non-market rental housing, starting with $1 billion that, with the support of this House on the budget, we can dedicate to transitional supportive housing for people who are homeless, people who are in shelters, get them into transitional homes with supports, they can move into permanent housing. And we're focused on tens of thousands of units of affordable rental housing that we want to build across this country. We count on the members' support in this House to do that. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Residents are protesting high grocery prices. In Cambridge Bay, even with a subsidy of $7.39, 12 bruised oranges cost $26.76. No one can afford these prices.
How much do the oranges that aren't bruised cost? What is the price on the oranges that aren't bruised? Like, again, don't come out here and think that your defense is a strength, or pardon me, your weakness is a strength. Lori Idlout, you're trash. You're right with those other people. You come out here spreading this bullshit propaganda. We'll call you out on it. Like, how much is a pound of oranges that aren't bruised? You're a victim? Look at your earrings, you stupid person.
The Northwest Company is profiting from our tax dollars while Inuit families are going hungry. Will the minister accelerate the Nutrition North review so Inuit families can finally afford food?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for the question. Our government is promised to overhaul Nutrition North, and work is moving ahead. We're expanding beyond retail subsidies by co-developing support for local harvesters and community food programs. Over 5,500 harvesters have received fuel, gear, and safety support, and dozens of community freezers and sharing programs are running across the north. In the Northwest Territories, a managed reindeer herd supplies hospitals and community feasts, keeping country food moving year-round. That's how we're delivering food security and affordability, led by the North and built to last, and we'll continue to work with our partners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Comme il est 15 heures.
All right, guys, sounds like it's over. Like, whatever Scarpia is going to do now. He pissed me off for the first time today. Like, Pierre Poilievre put up this really great speech, which we're going to look at now, but he shut it down. Before we get into that speech, there's a couple of other pieces before that we're going to show, but that's it. And we're going to follow that up with revisiting with Bruce Pardy. He's a professor from out west that is one of the last people, I think, that are going to be risen up in this fight back against the government, because the government is trying to take away every single thing you think you had. Like, I know they have a lot of liberal supporters. I'm not too cross at those people. They get duped and fooled by, because they're naive or they're stupid or whatever. Like, mostly naive though, because if you just watch the news, you're not getting any real information. You're getting propaganda, which is pretty much the opposite of news. But they call it the news. If they called it CBC propaganda with Rosie and Dave Cochran, like, people wouldn't watch it, but they watch that because they want to trust. And also, it's human nature to turn a blind eye or like look the other way after you've been fooled and not want to admit that you've been fooled. There are so many people for so long have been sucked into this woke culture bullshit about climate change and everything. It's just a deception to rip you off. Like, the world is healthy, the world is safe, and you have these people that won't allow pipelines and won't allow any development in this country only because they want to be the exclusive owners of those rights to build it. That's Mark Carney. He is a con man. He should be a criminal. I'm surprised he's still walking around. Like, I can't believe that there isn't one person. I won't get into that too much, but I'm surprised Mark Carney is still walking around because he's accessible. You could get him. He's a loser. It's very frustrating. Anyhow, gang, on a lighter note, Aaron, Canadian Looney, Mark Carney frustrates me because he seems to have this group of liberals which are not liberals anymore. They're all corrupt business people. That is all any of these people are that sit on that side. And very many of the conservatives, Bloc Québécois, NDP, whatever's left, are that too. If you get into politics, it's to be perhaps a corrupt business person. I think that we've got a handful of people that have walked away from better businesses than they had going on to take this on for the Conservative Party, fighting for Canadians. Like, I'm scared it's too late. That's what worries me. Anyway, we'll get into this. Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Let's take a look at this. Pierre Poilievre seems to be a man on fire. He's going to tear Mark Carney apart here first in the House of Commons. He's going to break the fourth wall, speak directly to you. Then he's going to make a rare legacy media appearance on CTV just last night. And then this morning, he lit up the House of Commons floor again with a very epic speech. We're going to look at all of those pieces. Let's get into this. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Let's kick it off with Pierre wiping the floor with Mark Carney. What a mess. It's funny.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Groceries lately.
Here we go.
Canadians, according to this Prime Minister, have never had it so good. If you're that single mother out there walking down the grocery aisle looking at prices rise before your eyes, if you're that senior choosing between eating and heating, if you're one of the countless Canadians who see that roasted coffee is up 41% since the Prime Minister took office, that nuts and seeds up 15%, that food price inflation is now double the target, or if you're one of those 2 million people that are lined up at food banks every single month, the Prime Minister never says you've never had it so good. How is it possible for this Prime Minister to be so costly and so out of touch with reality?
Here, here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, it's time once again for our economic lesson. Okay. Getting ahead means your wages grow faster than inflation. Let's look at the relationship between inflation and deficits. The inflation rate in Canada, the food inflation rate, is the G7 average, and we have the lowest deficit in the G7. What the government is going to do is use that deficit to grow this economy like it's never seen before. Here, here, well done.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So the Prime Minister says to that single mother, that small business owner, that senior I just referenced out there, that he needs to give you economic lessons. You are the one out there who are watching prices rise right before.
The honourable member knows to speak through the chair, and there was a lot of noise around that. So if the honourable member could just start from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is now lecturing Canadians who are lined up at food banks, telling them that they've never had it so good. That if only they appreciated all the many promises that he's made, promises that he hasn't even begun to keep, that they would then be appreciative of the fact that here we have fresh and frozen beef is up 14%, fresh and frozen cut chucks up 12%, frozen meats up 11%, coffee grains up 40%. Does he believe that people paying these exorbitant prices should be thankful for his economic lessons?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we promised to cut taxes for every Canadian. 22 million Canadians have their taxes cut. We promised to cut taxes on first-time home builders. They've been cut. We promised to cut the carbon tax. It's been cut. You weren't here. It's been cut. It's been cut. And we promised to build this country strong. November 4th, this House will have a choice. Are you with us for those single mothers? Are you with us for those farmers? Are you with us to build this country strong so they can get it?
What a loser.
Oh, yeah. Joining me now is the leader of the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre. Pierre, thank you for being here today. I want to get straight to the headlines. Some big headlines. Trump calling off trade talks over the Ford government's ad campaign, of course, featuring Ronald Reagan. Now, when you first read Trump's comments on social media, what was your initial reaction?
Well, disappointment, obviously, because, of course, Mark Carney had promised that he would negotiate a win for Canada, that we would have a deal by July 21st of 2025, months ago. And, of course, still no win, still no deal, and Mr. Carney's elbows have gone missing. This has forced premiers to run their own campaigns to fill the void that Mark Carney's broken promise has left behind. And I'm thinking about the workers here in Windsor who are out of a job because of Carney's failings on trade. We have the highest unemployment anywhere in Canada of any big city is right here in Windsor, 11%. These are families who don't know how they're going to pay their bills, keep their homes, live their lives. And I want them to know that Conservatives are going to fight for them every day, fight for the auto sector, fight for our auto workers, fight for Windsor.
And you're talking about Ford kind of stepping in. He did respond to Trump's comments today, saying, you know, Canada and the United States are friends, neighbors, allies. President Ronald Reagan knew that we are stronger together. God bless Canada. God bless the United States. You kind of mentioned it, but my question is, what role should provinces and territories play in shaping trade negotiations? Did Ford go too far in this case?
I think that what's happening is that premiers are filling the void that Mark Carney has left. I mean, he's broken every single promise he made about trade. Remember, he said, ignore 10 years of liberal housing crisis, the liberal crime crisis, liberal immigration crisis, the liberal cost of living crisis, and vote for me because I'm the only one who can, and I quote, handle Donald Trump. And here we are 7 months later, and he hasn't handled Trump. He's backed down again and again. American tariffs on Canadian industry have doubled since Mark Carney promised to eliminate those tariffs. So I think the responsibility rests with the national government and its head, and that's the Prime Minister. And Mark Carney has broken his promise. It has been a liberal bait and switch, and Canadian workers are paying the price.
As you said, this has been going on for months and months. Carney responding today that he's ready to negotiate again with the U.S. when they're ready. But is it too late?
It's never too late. We have to fight for our country. We need to reopen access to the American market, and that's what Conservatives are fighting for. But in the meantime, there's a lot of things we can do at home. For example, let's get rid of this crazy EV mandate that's already killing auto sector jobs. That is a self-inflicted liberal wound, banning the production of internal combustion engines. I mean, here in Windsor, people know better than anywhere. That is ridiculous. And we should get rid of the industrial carbon tax that is rendering all of our industries, steel, aluminum, autos, uncompetitive. Get rid of that tax altogether. Cut tax on work, investment, home building, and energy so that we can unlock the power of our economy. And finally, with unemployment being so high, we have to get rid of the temporary foreign worker program that is displacing our young people who can't get jobs at the local Tim Hortons or Starbucks. Canadian jobs should go to Canadian workers.
Now, all of those points extremely important, not only to Canadians all over, but here in Windsor, Essex. My last question is, in light of Trump's comments, if you were in this position as Prime Minister, what are the steps you would make next moving forward? First,
I would pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act, which will make our economy strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. Here's how it will work. We will cut taxes on work, investment, energy, home building so that we can unlock the power of our domestic industries. We'll legalize and greenlight rapid construction of pipelines, mines, ports, LNG plants, so that those are all things that are Trump-proof. He can't control what we build in our own country. Zero capital gains tax for anyone who reinvests in Canada. That will bring hundreds of billions of dollars of job-creating investment back to places like Windsor, so that when we sit down with the president, we do so with a position of strength, not the unprecedented economic weakness that Mark Carney has regrettably delivered. So my final message on that is have hope. Conservatives are going to fight for the workers of Windsor and all of Canada.
In the short term, though, how would you approach reaching out to Trump again?
Well, again, we need to do it from a position of strength. I think one of the reasons why Mr. Trump wanted to have Carney as prime minister is because Carney's so weak and he can bulldoze over him, which he's been doing now for the last 6 months. You need to be in a strong position, make it clear that Canada is able to stand on its own 2 feet and that we have other markets we can reach in addition to buying from ourselves. And with that strength, I believe we can negotiate a good deal for Canada.
Okay, Mr. Poilievre, thank you for joining us.
Emergency debate. I invite the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to rise and make a brief intervention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our Canadian farmers are the backbone of our economy, in particular our canola producers. And I would add that those producers in the Great Riding of Battle River Crowfoot are particularly renowned. But unfortunately, this $5 billion industry is under attack by unfair Chinese tariffs imposed by the regime in Beijing. This goes along with tariffs on seafood harvesters and other Canadian agriculture and agri-food producers. The Prime Minister promised that he would be a master negotiator, that he would open new markets, that he would negotiate wins. Of course, that was a bait and switch. His broken promises and failed diplomacy are costing a fortune to our farmers. In addition to which, we see that his failures with regard to the United States have resulted in a doubling of U.S. tariffs since he was elected on the promise that he would get a deal by July 21st. But back to the issue of farming, the $5 billion a year industry is critical to our overall economy and to the prairie economy in particular. We know that this sector is under immense pressure as Beijing has hammered our producers and artificially lowered, therefore, the price they can get for their sales. We have had much debate, and rightly so, about the tariffs that the Prime Minister has allowed to be imposed on our metal-making sectors, our automakers, and others, but not enough debate on canola producers. There are family farmers who are watching right now and relying on you, Mr. Speaker, to do the right thing and allow for an emergency debate. This is also an important matter of national unity. Western producers need to see that their sector is given fair attention and floor time in this House of Commons. They do not begrudge steel, aluminum, auto workers, and others for having a lot of debate in the House of Commons, but they expect that they too will have their voice heard. Given the enormity of this sector and the unfairness of the tariffs that the Chinese government has imposed, we are asking for you to do the right thing, Mr. Speaker, and allow for an emergency debate. I note this is particularly timely because the Prime Minister is meeting with President Xi later this week, and there is great expectation that all tariffs on canola and on our fish harvesters will be eliminated. After all, the Prime Minister did promise that he would be a master negotiator and that he knew how to handle these conversations. So we know that he will be coming back with an end to the tariffs. But in order to make sure that that is the case, let us have an emergency debate of which the Prime Minister and President Xi can take note before their meeting and before their announcement of the cessation of tariffs. So this is timely. It cannot wait. If it does delay, then you will, and this House will miss the window in which to have the conversation prior to the two heads of government meeting. And so we ask that you honor our farmers and allow for this House to take urgent action to defend their interests. Thank you very much.
I thank the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for his intervention.
You should should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.